This
is Woodside Church Kids.
Hello, Engagers. Well, what am I doing in bed as I talk to you this morning? Well, it's because the person I wanted to talk to you about was in bed, and he was called Samuel, and he was a boy. We don't know how old. He might have been 6, he might have been 5, he might have been 10. He was a boy. He didn't live with his mum and dad. He lived with a carer, Eli, who was a priest and was looking after him. And in the night, he hears a voice, and it's, Samuel, Samuel. And well, he gets up, he runs to Eli and says, here I am, you called. And Eli said, I didn't call. Go back to bed. So he goes back to bed. And again the voice comes, and Samuel. And so he goes off to Eli, and Eli says again, and this happens a couple of times until Eli realizes that it was God that was speaking. And he says, next time you say, speak, Lord, your servant's listening. And that's exactly what Samuel does. And God starts to speak to Samuel. And as he grows, he hears more messages from God, and people realize that Samuel is becoming a prophet. Now, God loves his children. The wonderful thing in that story is he says Samuel. God doesn't say you or your servant or whatever. God knows Samuel, and he knows you, and he wants to speak to us, and he does speak to us. One of the ways that he speaks to us is through his Bible. And when I read it, I can be thinking, Lord, what's this telling me about you? I can be thinking, Lord, what's it telling me about me? And Lord, what's it telling me to do? Maybe in the middle of that, it's something I feel, that's more than just my thoughts. It's something I need to do or think. And we can go to our parents or our carers or the people who take us to church, or even people in church, and say, help me with this. Because Samuel at the beginning didn't realize when it was God speaking and when it wasn't. But he learned, and he had the help of his carer. Now God can speak to us in other ways as well. Sometimes we can have dreams, and not every dream is God speaking, but some might be. And that's again where we might need someone else's help to be able to tell. And sometimes the thought that I had might be just more than a thought of mine, or sometimes a picture in my mind, a bit like imagination, but it wasn't me that imagined it, it came to me. And that can be God speaking too. And again, we can need the help of maybe people in the church, or our mums and dads, or people who care for us, or whoever takes us to church, maybe if it's not them. And we can learn to work out when God's speaking. That's a special thing, because God of the universe is speaking to his children. And you know what? This became really big in Samuel's life, because he carried on doing it. He learned to hear the voice of God, and then he started telling people that. And it says over 20 years, the people of Israel who were not in a good way, and there weren't many people like Samuel, started coming back to God, and the whole country was changed. And later we read that God told Samuel who the next kings should be. And the funny thing is, whatever the kings did, whether they were good or bad, so long as Samuel was praying, Israel never lost a battle, and the country was safe. And isn't that an amazing thing, what you can do as a person of prayer, and as someone who hears the voice of God? That's Samuel, and that could be some of us too. Have a lovely time, keep safe, love Jesus, and talk to him.
Don't forget to check out this week's Woodside Kids Weekly for all the fun crafts and activities Matty has planned. See you next week!